You can spot them by week 3. They turn things in early, they ask sharp questions, and they show up, even when it's raining. They might not always have the highest test score, but there's something about the way they move through the semester that sets them apart. They figured something out, a kind of cheat code, just not the kind that lands them in front of the dean. Welcome back to the What and Who of EDU, where we bring you insights from the leading educators, researchers, and innovators who are shaping the future of teaching and learning. On our podcast, we share real-world classroom strategies that help you create a more impactful and effective learning environment. I'm your host, Marissa Bluestone, and today we've got 10 things successful students do differently. These are the patterns and habits that quietly predict student success. And if you'd like to learn more about our featured educators who are sharing these tips, their bios are there for you in the show notes. So let's get into it. Woody Allen famously said, 80% of success is showing up. Dr. Eric Chiang, economics professor in residence at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and Macmillan Learning author, would probably agree, and then tell you the other 20% is preparing beforehand.
My most successful students are extremely organized. When I arrive 15 minutes before class to unlock the doors, they are the students who are already waiting outside so they can get settled in their seats early. They are the students who have read the syllabus before the first day of class so that they can ask clarifying questions instead of questions that are directly answered in the syllabus. I like to use a restaurant analogy since I like to eat out with friends and colleagues almost every day. Successful people will have read the menu online before arriving at the restaurant. That way, you know what you like and don't like, and can ask clarifying questions to the servers efficiently without wasting anyone's time being indecisive.
Because the students who succeed aren't just showing up hungry. They've already picked the entree, subbed the side, and asked if dessert is extra credit. But wait, there's more. That brings us to today's bingo bonus, which is a reminder that even when you're not early, just showing up, that still matters. Dr. Margaret Holloway, assistant professor of English and the composition coordinator at Clark Atlanta University, reminds us that the most successful students don't disappear when things get tough. They show up, and they keep showing up again and again.
I always tell my students, especially if I am teaching an in-person class, if you show up to class, 9 times out of 10, you're going to pass. That means you're here. You have to do the work while you're here. You're going to pass. So for me, time management, being a responsible student, doing your job, being accountable, which means showing up to the class that you signed up for.
It's like Michael Scott said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Okay, well, that was actually Wayne Gretzky, but you get the point. Success starts with showing up and sticking with it again and again and again. Before students can succeed in college, they have to master one thing fast. And no, it's not how to make ramen in their Keurig. It's time management. Without parents, teachers, or a school bell reminding them where to go and what to do, students are suddenly flying solo. Julie Moore, senior online academic advisor and first-year composition instructor at Eastern University and award-winning poet, sees this shift trip up a lot of new students, especially those fresh out of high school. And that takes us to tip 2. Manage your time like your mom is watching.
The ability to manage their time well. The high schoolers come from high school having had class every single day, and they get into a semester environment. Oh, I'm only having class twice a week. And they think that means only doing homework maybe 2 nights a week. And that is a big thing that destroys them, right? So those who can manage their time well, honestly, that's a number one thing, and understand how to prioritize their schoolwork, overall their social life. Obviously, freshmen have the most difficulty with this.
No one's there to say 2 a.m. pizza is a bad idea, or that 2 classes a week doesn't mean 5 days off. And if they can't manage it well, it has an impact on their mental health.
But now mental health is just a huge indicator of success too. Those who have mental health struggles really struggle academically too. And at my previous school, the number one reason for students withdrawing from school is mental health. It used to always be financial aid or just failing out of classes, one of those two things, but now it's mental health.
It's not just about due dates and productivity hacks. It's also about protecting your headspace. When students lose control of their schedule, stress doesn't just creep in. It crashes the party, eats the snacks, and flunks your exam. Falling behind in college can be like quicksand, easy to step into and a little bit hard to climb out of. Dr. Amy Goodman, a senior lecturer in the mathematics department at Baylor University, hands her students a calendar from day one and teaches them to learn in bite-sized chunks. Her most successful students don't cram. They study like they brush their teeth. And that's tip 3. Daily habits and small, consistent effort, that can make the difference.
For me, I know that my most successful students never get behind in my class. So in every class I teach, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's online, whether it's flipped, from the very first day of class, I post in Canvas and I hand them a copy of our calendar for the semester. And on that calendar, I have listed every section of content we're going to cover every day in class, any activities that go with it, anything they need to do before they come to class, due dates ahead of time. So there should never be a doubt about what you should be doing for your math class during the week. And by during the week, I keep it restricted to a Monday through Friday. I don't ask them to work on the weekends, but I give them that 5-day-a-week schedule so that I can take a complicated subject, a math modeling subject, a calculus subject, and break it up into tiny little bite-sized pieces so that students are never being, dying under a huge cognitive load at any one time. And so students that hear me and believe me and say, sure, I'll give it, 30 minutes a day and work 10 problems a day, then they never feel overwhelmed. They never get behind. They have plenty of time to come and ask questions in between activities. So whether students have already gotten pretty far in their math curriculum or they're just starting out, coming out of high school, if they just stay on the path, they are pretty likely to be successful in my classes.
Success usually doesn't come from last-minute cram sessions. It comes from showing up for the little things, daily, like brushing your teeth. 9 out of 10 professors agree. Study like you brush your teeth. The 10? They're still grading last semester's finals. If Amy Goodman's students avoid panic with daily practice, Dr. Jennifer Ripley Stickle's students succeed by seeing the whole arc of the course. The teaching professor and non-majors biology program director at West Virginia University helps students to connect the dots. Her students don't cram, they build. One quiz, one eye-clicker question, and one, wait, what? moment at a time. Tip 4. It's not about acing the test. It's about understanding the story.
Students need to understand that they need to learn over the course of the semester. You're not studying for an exam. If you try to just study for an exam, you are not getting everything out of the class that you need to get. And so I, again, try to put assignments scattered throughout the semester, whether they're homework assignments or group activities or clicker, to force them to keep up. You can't just come to class every day, take notes, and then study the weekend before. You're not going to get all the points from all the other assignments. I'm going to, without your knowledge, I'm going to force you to learn every day in here by doing the clicker questions, the group activities, the homework assignments. And the students that are able to learn the material, to actually incorporate it into them instead of memorizing it, are the ones that get the most out of the class and succeed. They get the grades they want. Because when we come to the final exam, and I still give that comprehensive final exam, they don't have to study. In fact, at that point, they're just realizing there's a big picture and that connecting all the dots and getting all those aha moments at that end. And it's really rewarding to see them get to that point, to be able to take the time the last week instead of trying to relearn everything, to be able to make those higher order connections.
That, oh, now I get it moment. only happens when you've been showing up, tuning in, and connecting the dots all along. Because it's about so much more than just a grade. So, yes, successful students learn to see the whole story. But before they can connect the dots, they need to know which ones matter the most. And that brings us to York University Assistant Professor of Biology, Charlotte Dearage, with tip 5. And it's part strategy, part self awareness, and also a big predictor of success. Know thyself, or at least know how you learn the best.
Especially during the beginning of the semester, students always ask, how can I receive that A plus in cell biology, or maybe how can I pass biochemistry? Well, we provide a number of study strategies. I've also reached out to students who were quite successful in the course and asked them, hey, what worked for you? It ends up being quite varied, different strategies for different students. So I would attribute success to students who know what works best for themselves.
Knowing thyself isn't just ancient Greek wisdom, and 2 of Charlotte's students know that firsthand. I'll let her explain.
To illustrate this point, I can share one of my former students who was in their early 30s and decided to join the undergraduate biomedical program. He quit his job and decided to return to school to work towards becoming a pharmacist. While he was a goal-driven student, at the beginning of the semester, he shared that he felt a bit out of place in first-year biology. His peers, he felt, were 10 years younger than him, and he felt more comfortable to reach out with a number of lecture-based questions right after lecture and then continue these conversations during student hours. I shared with them that, you know what, you're not alone. In fact, many of your peers are also entering first year biology after break. And over time, he felt more and more comfortable to start attending peer mentoring sessions. And from there, it then branched out to looking into becoming the class rep. And he ended up really succeeding and doing well in the course. I also always recall a student who shared to me that they were quite anxious in public settings. And being able to complete online assessments, attend online student hours, ask and respond to questions anonymously, they shared that it truly saved their mental health, or they would have just ended up dropping the course. They ended up passing the course, and we crossed paths again as they were enrolled in second year biochem course. And I was teaching that course, and they're also excelling in this course too. And so collectively, students who can reflect on study strategies and approaches that work best for their learning process and keep continuing along this path can truly try and thrive.
2 very different students, 2 very different paths to success. The common thread? They figured out what worked for them. So whether you're a front row question asker or a behind the scenes anonymous type, own it. Because while know thyself sounds philosophical, it also just happens to be a really, really practical study strategy too. Even the brightest students can hit a wall. The difference is what they do next. Mary Gurley, a psychology instructor at Gaston College, tells her students early, asking for help isn't a weakness, it's a skill. Whether it's navigating an assignment or solving literal Olympic-level poop problems, her most successful students speak up. So, what's the lesson? Tip 6, and that's ask for help and don't wait until the wheels fall off.
I make sure my students know the first day I meet them that they need to learn how to ask for help. And I show them a video called Super Chickens. I don't think that's the official name of it, but it's a TED Talk. It's about 12 minutes long. If you've not watched it, I highly recommend it. And if you don't know how to ask for help, you are going to really cause yourself a lot of unnecessary problems. So you have to learn to ask for help. Asking for help is so important. It is not a weakness. And I think that's something that students, again, a misconception they bring to college. I believe in high school, and maybe it's different now. I don't know, but like, I know it's not different now because I get the same students, still getting students who think this. They think it's not okay to ask for help. It shows a weakness. It shows a gap in their knowledge. And I tell them, you have to learn to ask for help at all levels. If you get a note from financial aid that says you're kicked out of your classes because you didn't pay or whatever, and you can't get that solved that day or that afternoon, call me. Call somebody else at the college. Call a friend. Call another professor, email a professor. Don't settle for a door being shut in your face. Practice asking for help in this class because you're going to need that skill the rest of your life. And that TED Talk gives this great example about somebody who was trying to figure out how to store and dispose of horse manure at the Olympics in London. And he was like, I have no idea how to do this. How am I going to get rid of all this poop? And he just called somebody that worked at a stable in New York City because, like, they would obviously have to move a lot of poop out of there, and they modeled it after that. And I mean, like, that's brilliant. But what did he do? He called somebody and asked for help. He did not make a new system. He didn't break the mold. He just asked for help. And that is so important for students, like they need to know that it's okay to ask for help.
From missed deadlines to manure logistics, success comes from reaching out and asking for help. The smartest students don't just wonder, they wave the flag and ask, "Can someone walk me through this?" And that's how they move forward, even if the path is lined with poop. If college feels hard, well, that's because it is. Dr. Erica Martinez, economics professor of instruction at the University of South Florida, brings the underdog energy and wants you to believe that you can get better at learning. Struggling isn't failing, it's part of the process, and it leads to growth and to tip 7, which is be the little engine that could and believe you can grow.
I think one of the most important factors in student success is making sure that they have a growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. And a growth mindset is one's belief that your abilities and intelligence can be developed and improved through effort and learning and persistence, where you view challenges as opportunities to grow and learn rather than obstacles to overcome. I try to encourage students to see challenges as opportunities for learning rather than failures, and helping them develop resilience in their academic journey.
Now go on and cue that Rocky training montage because you're not falling behind. You're building strength. Okay, you've got the calendar under control. You're starting to believe struggle isn't a red flag. But what if the real secret isn't grinding? It's wondering. Dr. Derek Harmon, Associate Professor Clinical in the Department of Biomedical Education and Anatomy at The Ohio State University College of Medicine, says students who thrive are the ones who ask the weird questions, chase the tangents, and dig a little deeper, which, surprise, surprise, is exactly what Tip 8 is all about.
I think students that are inherently curious and asking questions that are tangentially related to the topic are always trying to go a little bit deeper than maybe what I presented. They are without a doubt the most successful students. The rest of it just kind of falls into place based on the level of learner that I tend to work with on the graduate or medical program. They're all self-motivated, which is what got them to these programs in the first place. But those who continuously inquire and dig deeper are almost always the most successful.
Successful students don't just memorize, they want to know why, and their curiosity pulls them in. So go ahead and ask those weird questions, go off on a tangent, and poke that topic with a stick and see what happens. And if you're wondering how the top students make it look easy, well, Tip 9 has your answer. Dr. Mike May doesn't just teach math, he trains problem solving like it's a sport. The lower division coordinator in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics at St. Louis University says that success in his class doesn't come from cramming. It comes from reps so practiced that they become automatic.
They come to class and do the homework. I think teaching math is more like teaching athletic PE and sports than it is like teaching history, because there is no substitute for seat time and repetitions. And I find people will understand that what I tell them is I was a swimmer when I was growing up. And I remember how often we practice flip turns, and that you swim to the wall and push off and swim to the wall and turn and push off and do that for 2 hours every day for 5 days in a week, for 2 weeks, every year, or that there's really no substitute for practicing. And so students will be successful if they do enough problems that they get a chance to do that.
It's not flashy. It's not dramatic. It's swimming to the wall, flipping, and doing it again and again. Reps build rhythm. Rhythm builds confidence. And that's where success starts. Mike's students succeed because they practice until it's second nature. If Mike May's students are training for the exam, Adriana Bryant's are rewriting the assignment. This one isn't about finishing the story. It's about changing the ending. The English and Developmental English instructor at Lone Star College in Kingwood says her most successful students don't just complete the assignment, they challenge and question it. They push themselves by choosing the unfamiliar prompt, trying a new approach, and taking initiative. Not for the grade, but for the growth. Tip 10. Encourage students to try something new and level up on purpose.
I always tell my students, don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not bothering me. And so when they do, I find that they are more successful in the end because they're making sure that they are gaining the right skills and successfully completing the topics, the assignments, right? And I do notice that they challenge themselves with the assignments. So I often give options and they will not go with something that they are more comfortable with. They will try something new. And so it's interesting to see how the students that push themselves a little bit and they get excited about it. And so I always kind of like reinforce that. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Like, let's do it. Even if you're, I'm not sure about it. No, I think you can do it. That'd be great. And so they end up just going to the next level in their critical thinking or their creativity process. And I think that's just wonderful. Those are skills that they're absolutely going to need. And last thing I would say is that they are often leaders in the class. So when it comes to discussion or within, whether it's in class, full class discussion, or even in groups, I see that they always take the initiative. They get things together. They start conversations. And so I often see that they're more proactive.
These students are the leaders that saw something that was a bit unfamiliar and decided to go for it anyhow. No path of least resistance for them because they're not just doing the work, they're owning it. And that's what leveling up looks like. So what did we learn today? Successful students do things differently. They show up, they stay curious, and they ask for help, even if the question starts with, okay, this might sound dumb, but... And once they found their rhythm, they push themselves further. If this episode gave you a few ideas for your own class, or just made you nod along while grading, pass it along to a colleague, leave us a review, or scroll down to the show notes to learn more about the educators we featured today. Then go follow them, thank them, or just gently borrow some of their wisdom to help your students win college. Got a strategy that students swear by, or a story that starts with, this might sound weird, but? Leave us a voicemail with your tips at 512-765-4688. And you might just hear yourself on a future episode. Bonus points if it makes us say, wait, they did what? Until next time, I'm Marissa Bluestone, and this is the What and Who of EDU.